I find the topic of Open RAN to be a really fascinating discussion of American leadership in standards. You know, for many years, I was a software engineer before I was demoted into full-time public service. And I got to oversee kind of a transition in the software industry from an era when if you wanted to something to work, you had to write it yourself, into an era where it was very plug and play, where you had functionality offered by operating systems and libraries and engines that you could leverage. And there's a lot of upsides to that, but a substantial downside is that when a problem arises, you have to figure out if it's your problem or if it's somebody else's problem. And quite often, everyone blames each other. Well, it's not my problem, must be a problem with this module or this software or this hardware. So Mr. Blum, when you were responding to Congressman Dunn's question, you said something I found interesting. You said, Open RAN has the advantage of the fact that there are always cockroaches, but with Open RAN you can see them and kill them. What happens, though, when everyone says that they're somebody else's cockroaches? Does that happen, and how do you deal with that?
Open RAN provides accountability because the network is virtualized, and in the cloud, we see every piece of it. The data that we're getting on the network, so we can see, oh, this is, John, there's a major problem with your software, or Nokia, something's wrong with your core, or JMA, something's wrong with your antenna. It's that transparency that allows us to root out the bugs and improve the quality of service and make our network optimized and better than it was. And as a video game developer, you know that every year as the new games came out, you had to take out you wanted to upgrade your graphics card so it could run and you could have great graphics. Open RAN allows that plug and play on the software level and the hardware level. So the next generation chip that comes out, we don't need to wait to 6G. We don't need to wait a decade. We could update it in software and put the latest and greatest chip into the networks. And so the quality of service for consumers, for private 5G can be realized much quicker than legacy.
But you never have a problem where, for example, you brought up the occasion of a new graphics chip. There's a graphical glitch. Is that a software problem or a hardware problem? It's hard to tell. Does that a problem occur in Open RAN too? Because it seems like it would.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not perfect. And system integration, as I mentioned, is an issue. We had to become our own system integrator, and accountability is important. But you're right. It's not perfect when you see it. Okay, why is there higher latency, for example? Is that a software issue? Is that a hardware issue? And it's being able to have the data to figure that out. It may not be fully obvious just from the start, but we can figure it out with the data.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Baker, I had a question about certification, because it seems like we're all in furious agreement here that what's really needed is some kind of certification authority that can do testing and evaluation and grant certification to Open RAN components and vendors. And I think I've heard a couple of people on the panel say it probably should be a nonprofit. It should be some international agency that's respected by worldwide to minimize the amount of conflict here. My question, though, is normally when you have a certification authority, they're also in charge of the standard itself, because as time goes by, the standard has to be altered to grow with technology, to recognize some of the limitations and the changing usage cases. So is the idea that whoever is granted certification authority is also in charge of maintaining the standard?
No, it doesn't have to be in this case. In a sense, the O-RAN Alliance has written the specifications in a way that has the minimal feature requirements that are necessary for O-RAN products to be compatible. So in that sense, the community, if they're all testing to common specs, all testing using common methods, there's 18 integration test centers around the world. These could all be using some common test method, common procedure. They could be audited through likes of, BSI, through other audit functions, and just like they do with 3GPP today. And then if there's a problem with the spec, then it's to the manufacturer or test house to take that back to the O-RAN Alliance and get the specifications changed.
So what happens now when there is a disagreement on the Open RAN standard? Because I'm sure that occurs.
Yes, and through the working bodies, and actually this is where Mavenir actually invests the majority of its people in standards. I think we have over 7, 8 people now today looking at Open RAN standards through the O-RAN Alliance. And we take those challenges back to the Open RAN Alliance, and we actively work to get the specification altered in a way that makes sense for the industry.
Well, thank you. I'm out of time. I'm sure we'll continue having this discussion. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.